How's everybody doing this morning? Well, I woke up deciding to try something a little new with this channel, and I hope it works out. So, I want to do a book talk, which will be similar to a review, but instead of just kind of giving my opinion about a book, I'll go kind of like into a full description, a little longer than a synopsis of the story itself. And so, just so you know, there may be spoilers. So it's my first time doing this. So you guys are kind of my test audience, and feel free to comment afterward. Tell me how you feel. So the book I want to talk about today actually is a book that's very near and dear to my heart, and that would be The Last Don by Mario Puzo. For those of you that may not be familiar, Mario Puzo was the author of The Godfather, which is another book I like to talk about. So, The Godfather are my favorite movies. The Godfather book is actually my second favorite book. My first favorite is The Last Don by Mario Puzo. And, I really want to talk about this book. I think it's a fantastic read. And so here's what I kind of want to talk about. I want to really discuss like kind of the setting, the plot, the different characters, because there's just so much going on with this book. Definitely has. If you love The Godfather, you would love this. They actually made a mini series off of The Last Don, which I haven't seen actually. Even though there's some fantastic actors in there like Joe Mantegna, and I apologize if I mess his name up. Anyway, so let's begin. So The Last Don starts off in 1965 in I think it's Quogue, New York. And so instead of following the Corleone family, this story follows the Claricuzio family. It's made up by the Don, Domenico Claricuzio, who's an immigrant, and they had just finished a war with the Centario crime family. And Domenico is himself about to go into sort of semi-retirement. His plan is he wants to kind of, like similar to Michael Corleone from The Godfather, he wants to move his family into legitimacy. He's got three sons, Giorgio, who's the oldest, Petey, and Vincent. And he also has a daughter named Rosemarie, and he has a nephew from the son of his sister, who his name is Joseph, but he goes by Pippi Delena. So anyway, so it's 1965. They're celebrating the end of this great war. Domenico then goes to the other mafia dons and says, "Listen, I'm giving up all my operations except gambling, and I'm going to disperse that to the rest of you, and you're going to pay me 10%." So at this point, Domenico has established himself as the boss of bosses. He's assigned his sons to, work different legitimate businesses. Giorgio's in Wall Street, Petey's in construction, Vincent's is working with restaurants, and his various associates, he's sending them everywhere to kind of get themselves established in various industries, and he maintains contact with them. So that's kind of the beginning. That's the prologue. Then the story jumps to 1990. So aside from Godfather, which takes place in like the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, not the 60s, I'm sorry, but the 40s and the 50s, the heyday, really the golden era of the mafia, some would say. This is 1990, a little bit more modern. And at this point, Domenico now has a grandson called Dante, who is the son of Rosemarie Claricuzio. And he has a great nephew, who's the son of Pippi Delena, whose name is Crossifixio. Everybody calls him Cross. You can tell they're pretty early on Italian-American generational Americans. Sorry if I messed that up. Again, first time, so bear with me. Now, what I like about this story is, yes, it's a mafia story, but it also has insights into sort of what Mario Puzo did with the music and the movie industry in The Godfather. In this case, he talks more about the casino business in Las Vegas, which is an industry I've always found fascinating. And he also talks, and we also visit Hollywood as well. 1990s, late 1980s, 1990s Hollywood. So there's a few more characters that jump in. Cross Affixio, Cross is he's more of the central protagonist of the story. He's half Italian through his father. He inherits this hotel called the Xanadu. And he owns the majority percent, the other half belonging to the Clercuzio crime family. And he's trying to kind of be his own man. They at first they were grooming him to be more involved with the violent side of the mafia. His father, Pippi, was known as the Hammer because he was the number one hitman in the mafia family, and he tries to teach Cross his ways. There's one incident in particular where Cross actually does perform a hit, and he does kill a few people in the book. Again, spoilers. But then he decides he doesn't want to do that anymore when, I'm not trying to give too much away, when they try to assign him with killing off an old family friend, and he doesn't want to because he remembers this person finally as sort of like an uncle. Cross also has a sister named Claudia. Claudia is really trying to get her position. She's trying to achieve some status in Hollywood. And I love really how Hollywood is described. I think, with Harvey Weinstein and all the different corruption scandals that have happened with Hollywood, it really kind of, this book really highlights the sleazier side of Hollywood and how producers and these big owners of the movie industry, how they kind of screw over screenwriters and authors. There's a kind of a side story in there where one of the authors that Claudia is working with, he's thinking about killing himself, because if he does that, then based on his contract, whatever money he's supposed to make from a movie will pass down to his family, to his children. And in death, he would actually screw over these movie producers that are so known for screwing everybody else over. So that's fantastic. I also want to talk about Dante Clercuzio. Dante, like I said, he's the grandson of Domenico Clercuzio. So that would make him, at some point, he would stand to inherit the head of the mafia, the head of the family. The problem with him is that he's a very violent individual. He is taught the more violent ways of the mafia, of course, but unlike Cross, who has a certain set of morals, Dante really enjoys the more violent aspects, the more he enjoys the brutality, which later on in the book, there's a scene where he is assigned with killing somebody, and he really takes that with much enjoyment.